Why do I have to make my bed? That's the name of this story. Why do I have to make my bed? And, or A History of Messy Rooms by Wade Bradford. Why do I have to make my bed? I said. I already put the dishes in the dishwasher. I dusted off my video games. I even picked up my dinosaurs, my racetrack, and my robot monkey action figures. So why do I have to make my bed? It's just going to get messed up again. Mom raised her eyebrow and said, "That reminds me of a little story about your grandmother when she was a little girl. And that little girl was as grumpy as a groundhog. And she said, I already washed and dried the dishes. I dusted my rock and roll records. I even picked up my slinky, my hula hoop, and my roller skates. Gee whiz, why do I have to make my bed?" Her mother just tapped her foot and said, "That reminds me of a story about your grandfather when he was a little boy, and that little boy was as mad as a wet cat. And he said, I already fetched water from the pump. I dusted the phonograph. I even picked up my spinning tops, my toy train, my tin soldiers. Pray tell, mother, why do I have to make my bed?" This is a big book to show you all these pictures at once. His mother just smirked and said, "That reminds me of a story about your great-grandfather." No, your great-grandmother. And when she was a little girl, that little girl was as bothersome as a badger. Here's the grandfather. And look how they got water. They tell you in this story what the year was. And this says 1911. That's over 100 years ago. So that's what he had to do. He had to fetch water from the well, from a pump. He had to dust off the record player. And his toys were a top and a bunch of soldiers that he cleaned up. But now he's thinking back to to the little boy's great-grandmother. And what did that great-grandmother say? "I already drew water from the well. I already dusted off Pa's fiddle. I even picked up my lasso, my marbles, and my rag doll. Land's sake, Ma, why do I have to make my bed?" Her mother just scrubbed the table and said, "That reminds me of a story about your great-grandfather when he was a little boy, and that little boy was as ruffled as a hen. When he said, I've already hung my breeches to dry. I've dusted Father's printing press. I even picked up the eggs in the hen house and the tomatoes in the garden. So why do I have to make my bed?" "1762. It's like 250 years ago. His mother just fluttered her fan and said, "That reminds me of a story about your great-great-great-grandmother when she was a little girl. And that little girl was as cantankerous as an old sea dog. And she said, I've already swabbed the deck in the year 1630. I've already swabbed the deck. I dusted off the captain's spy scope. I even picked out rats that were hiding in the pickle barrel. So why do I have to make my bed?" Her mother just clucked her tongue and said, "That reminds me of a story about your double great-great-great-grandfather when he was a little boy, and that little boy was as wicked as a warlock. And he said, well, I already sheared the sheep back in 1144. I already sheared the sheep and milked the yak. I dusted off sister's loom. I even picked up the pig droppings and planted the wheat. So why do I have to make my bed? His mother just put her hands on her hips and said, that reminds me of a story about your double great great double great great grandmother when she was a little girl. And that little girl was more thunderous than Thor. And she said, what do you think she said? I already stoked the fire for the sword maker. I dusted off the sacred blowing horn. I even picked up the broken spears and patched up father's war wounds. Why do I have to make my bed? Her mother just burped and said, that reminds me of a story about your triple great great grandfather when he was a little boy. And that little boy was as ill-tempered as a caged lion. And do you know what he said? He said, I already unclogged the aqueducts, I dusted off the statues, I even picked up after the gladiators. So why do I have to make my bed? His mother just brushed her golden hair and said, that reminds me of a story about your triple great 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 grandmother when she was a little girl. And that little girl was as cranky as a crocodile. And she said, I already gave water to the pyramid builders. I dusted off father's papyrus scrolls. I even gathered up the plague of frogs, big brother, and snuck into your tent. I even picked up the plague of frogs, big brother, that you snuck into our tent. And her mother brushed off off her tunic and said, oh, so why do I have to make my bed? I'm having a little trouble with this story. Are you? That reminds me of a story about one of your ancestors when he was a little boy, and that little boy was as sour as a saber-toothed tiger, and he said, me already clean cave. Me hunt mammoth. Me dust stalagmites. Me make fire. Why me have to make bed? It just gets messed up again. Why? All the way back to cavemen. His mother just stared at him, that's staring, and said, because I said so. Oh, said the cave boy, who then straightened his bed of sticks and furs. Oh, said the Egyptian girl, who fluffed up her bed in flaxen linen. Oh, said the Roman boy, who smoothed the wrinkles out of his wool blanket. Oh, said the Viking girl, who shook the fleas from her caribou hide. Oh, said the Norman boy, who stuffed more goose feathers into his pillow. Oh, said the Pilgrim girl, who neatly folded her mother's quilt. Oh, said the Virginia boy, who pulled up his sheets nice and straight. Oh, said the country girl, who heaped handfuls of hay into her mattress. Oh, said the city boy, who tucked his sheets under the corners. Oh, said your grandmother, who made everything tidy and neat. And that, said Mom, as she lowered her raised eyebrow, is the end of the story. Oh, I said, and then I made my bed. I made my bed today, did you? If you didn't do it yet, there's still time. Love you. Bye.